Summer Game Fest is happening right now. We got some huge reveals. LEGO Horizon looks way better than I expected. But also Xbox just happened. And here to tell you way more about it is Tom. He usually edits these big Sunday videos. You also saw him during the live reaction. I'm namely on the ground in LA right now, bringing you a ton of exclusive details on, yes, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and way more. So stay tuned to the channel for that. I will also be a little later in the video back with some other news that happened next to the Summer Game Fest, and of course what's coming this week. So sit back, enjoy the big gaming news roundup video, and let's go.
Thanks, Jor. Let's kick things off with a quick recap of Summer Game Fest. And yeah, the show did feel kind of off, and although we appreciate Jeff Keighley's attempt to touch on some industry issues and offer smaller studios some time in the limelight, we'd love to see more gameplay to really hype us up for big upcoming games. The show mostly consisted of cinematic filler and very few deep dives on new, interesting gameplay. That being said, there were definitely some highlights that did get us interested. For starters, Summer Game Fest kicked off with LEGO Horizon Adventures. Yes, the LEGO Horizon game that was recently rumored is indeed real, and it actually looks quite interesting. Guerrilla and Studio Gobo are working together to create a LEGO game that seems to play a lot like the older TT Games LEGO titles. Looking bright, bricky, and funnily enough, very realistic this time around. Even though it's Horizon made from tiny blocks, the seemingly ray-traced graphics and lifelike depth of field really make you want to explore this blocky world. It features platforming and top-down hack-and-slash combat, but Horizon Adventures mostly seems like a light-hearted adventure through the Horizon universe. The tone of voice definitely sounds more upbeat and less moody, and you can play through the entire game with a friend on the couch or online. Aside from Aloy, there's a bunch of different Horizon characters to play with, most likely also including some non-Horizon guest appearances and Easter eggs. The game's hub world, Mother's Heart, can also be customized through brick building, it being a LEGO game after all. LEGO Horizon Adventure will be launching on PlayStation 5 this holiday, with a day one release for PC and Nintendo Switch as well. Even if it's not necessarily for you, this one will probably be introducing the Horizon universe to a lot of new players, including of course some younger audiences and families. Black Myth Wukong showed up too, with a short but sweet cinematic and some announcements regarding physical versions of the game. There's going to be a deluxe edition and a separate collector's edition, with the latter of course featuring a cool looking figurine. Both of these physical editions will be coming with an activation code rather than a disc, although Game Science is exploring options to offer physical discs somewhere in the future maybe. The digital bonuses consist of the Bronze Cloud Staff, Wind Chimes Curio, and the Folk Opera cosmetic set, looking rather stylish in all red. Black Myth Wukong is still launching August 20th on PlayStation 5 and PC, but curiously enough, the Xbox Series X and S versions have been postponed, with no new release window announced so far. Game Science says it first needs to get the port up to their quality standard before revealing an official new release date. The developer didn't point any fingers, but it's probably related to the lower spec hardware from the Xbox Series S. So yeah, it's a shame, but Xbox players will have to wait a little bit longer for this one. As was promised, Monster Hunter Wilds returned with a second gameplay trailer during Summer Game Fest. While it didn't show wildly different gameplay from what we've seen recently, the trailer featured some interesting looking combat with a swarm of Balahara sandworms, leading to a Leviathan variant. As we've seen before, you can now also swap weapons while on your mount, and overall the mounted traversal seems to be way more fluid as well. This second trailer also shows off a new breed of monsters, which seems to be a giant bird-like dinosaur wielding lightning powers. While not a lot is known about this monster, the PlayStation blog seems to be linking this bird to the Sand Tide, the bigger sand and lightning storms that wreak havoc on the Windward Plains. There might just be a link between this monster and the weather conditions in the bigger open world, which definitely sounds like it could be an interesting gameplay element. Still, no solid release date though, but it was revealed Capcom will be bringing Wilds to Gamescom, with more gameplay during opening night live and even a playable demo on the show floor. We will most likely be attending Gamescom this year again, and if we manage to go hands-on with this one, you'll be sure to hear about it on the channel.
Whoa, chiming in here from the LA hotel room, of course. If you like these videos so far, leave a like, that would really help us out. We worked really hard on this one. And subscribe, because we post one of these big gaming news roundup videos every Sunday.
Phantom Blade Zero returned with a pretty solid gameplay trailer as well. The Chinese action RPG was originally revealed during last year's PlayStation Showcase, but kept it quiet ever since. The new gameplay shown during Summer Game Fest features more snippets of the so-called Kung Fu Punk world, highlighting some more elements of exploration as well as new enemies. The highlight, however, is definitely still the martial arts-inspired combat, looking even swifter and more fluent than before. This time around, we also see more of the bigger bosses and unique enemy types that clearly can't be just cut down with swift slashes. In all likeliness, this is going to be a tough one. There's still no official release window for Phantom Blade Zero, but developer S-Game is bringing a playable demo to multiple conventions this summer, including Gamescom 2024. Again, you'll hear from us if we get our hands on it in Cologne. And yeah, the big comeback of that beloved Take-Two IP, teased just before the show, turned out to be Civilization 7. It was shown off with a pretty generic cinematic trailer and a general announcement coming from Sid Meier himself. And yeah, although it's a good thing the series is coming back for more, this time even launching on consoles immediately, it was kind of a harsh disappointment for those hoping for, let's say, a Mafia, Borderlands, or even BioShock to return. It is, however, a good thing for strategy fans, of course. Civ 7 is coming to Steam, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch somewhere during 2025. Apart from these highlights and some pretty sweet indie initiatives, Summer Game Fest didn't really bring any big blowout games. But luckily, Xbox chimed in just now with a lot of interesting gameplay during their own showcase. First of all, Fable's back with another trailer, quite similar to the one from last year, even coming down to another British celebrity cameo. There's more shots of the open world of Albion, more interactions between various NPCs and our presumably customizable hero, and there seems to be more interesting combat this time around too. Like combining temporal magic with ranged attacks and even being able to catch enemy arrows out of mid-air to yeet them back. Even though those shots are pretty rapid, the gameplay overall looks pretty good. Story-wise, the whole gameplay trailer is being narrated by the retired hero called Humphrey, being played by Peep Show comedian Matt King. He appears to be this stubborn mentor figure for our protagonist, while also seemingly being connected to the big antagonist of this story. While it isn't fully clear who this female villain exactly is, there's two prevailing theories. The red cape and black mist shown here could refer to the Queen of Blades, a never-before-seen relative of the villain from the original Fable. But her holding a staff, however, could also be a reference to Whisper, the friendly but competitive hero that your protagonist grows up with in the first game. My mind is on the Queen of Blades though, as Whisper mostly was a goody two-shoes the entire original game, so it's kind of hard to see her grow up to be a villain. There's also a general release window, finally. If all goes according to plan, Fable will be launching in 2025 on Xbox Series X and S as well as PC. That is rather quick, however, and I hope Playground Games can get everything in order on time, as this could be quite the heavy hitter for Xbox, currently still lacking their own big fantasy action RPG, and this could be it. And as it turns out, Perfect Dark isn't dead and forgotten after all. 3.5 years after its original reveal, we were finally treated to a hefty chunk of gameplay. And it seems this reboot will stay quite faithful to the original, featuring first-person espionage, all types of high-tech gadgets, and at the very least some solid handgun shootouts. It comes across as a futuristic spy adventure for the most part, but there's also some teases towards a deeper conspiracy and something of a new world or dimension being discovered. A lot of it is still pretty vague, but most of the gameplay looks solid, with probably a lot of different ways to approach missions as Joanna Dark. To me, it seemed like this could also scratch that Hitman itch, where gathering intel or taking out certain targets can turn into complex puzzles with a lot of potential for creative solutions with different gadgets. The initiative and co-developer Crystal Dynamics aren't yet pinpointing a precise release window, but at the very least it's good to know Perfect Dark seems to be doing okay, especially seeing the lead studio had some hiccups getting started up. It's not exactly Gears 6, but a new Gears of War did actually show up anyway. Gears of War E-Day is a fully new game returning to the start of the Locust invasion, which actually happened 14 years before the first Gears of War game. The in-engine cinematic shows a younger Marcus Phoenix fighting off a original Locust drone with a Mark I Lancer on the original E-Day, while later teaming up with Dominic. There's even a rendition of Mad World playing in the background to really get that nostalgia pumping. And as someone who liked the original trilogy more than the later Gears of War games, this really seems to be targeting fans who may have fallen off over the last couple of years. And as expected, the game is being built entirely on Unreal Engine 5, with the in-engine assets looking grittier than ever. Gears of War E-Day will most likely launch on Xbox Series X and S, as well as PC, but the platforms and release window weren't officially announced. Still though, we're finally getting more Gears, and it seems to be a more classical Gears of War, so that's definitely something to look forward to. And as was rumored before, Doom: The Dark Ages was indeed revealed here, ripping through a first gameplay trailer. Turns out Doom will indeed be going medieval with this one, featuring makeshift Gatling guns churning through skulls, giant controllable mechs, and a shield meets chainsaw blade that players can boomerang around. It's still clearly a rapid first-person shooter, but its software is going ham on the weapon designs with this one. It's Doom in the Dark Ages. There's not a lot else needed to sell fans on the premise. It will most likely turn out to be a highly responsive single-player shooter when it launches somewhere in 2025 on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5 and PC. Seeing all these heavy hitters during the showcase makes us almost forget that there were so many other reveals. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 announced an October 25th launch date. Avowed, Indiana Jones and State of Decay 3 all shown new in-game trailers. Diablo 4's Vessel of Hatred expansion is launching October 8th. And then there's also South of Midnight showing gameplay that is as stylistic as its original cinematic trailer. The actual exploration and especially combat in that game still came across a bit stiff though, but it's probably worth keeping an eye on this one either way, as it's also launching somewhere in 2025. Glossing over many more trailers and announcements, Xbox really delivered the strong showing it so desperately needed. Definitely let us know what you thought of the Xbox showcase as well as Summer Game Fest, and tell us what games you're looking forward to the most. And while you're doing that, I'll be throwing the video over to Jordan for some news on Rocksteady and Warner Brothers.
Yes, thanks Tom. We namely also have some non-Summer Game Fest news. We namely learned what happened behind the development of Suicide Squad, the future of the game, a new change in how Warner is approaching development, and way more. And it's thanks to a new article from Jason Schreier. So after Batman Arkham Knight, Rocksteady wanted to do something else. So they were started working on a prototype of an original multiplayer puzzle-solving game codenamed Stones. So this was around 2016, and then of course Warner released the Suicide Squad movie, and that was a huge success, so they wanted to do something with that in regards to gaming as well, so they gave the property to Rocksteady. So this meant that Stones, their new IP, that people inside Rocksteady weren't too hyped about either, was cancelled, it was out, in favor of a live service game based on the anti-heroes. Because also around this time, Destiny and live service games in general were really popular, so like Warner Bros. Executives traveled to London to Rocksteady to be like, hey, go make something like this as well, it's gonna be the future. So the Rocksteady leaders were like, okay, let's do it. But yeah, they of course did not have any experience with this genre whatsoever, and to no one's surprise, this caused a ton of issues. Basically, the game constantly shifted. A ton of content, including vehicles for characters, that was supposed to be like a big mechanic at one point. Things like that were scrapped all the time, so they failed to make any significant progress. The game was first planned for 2019 or 2020, but was of course delayed over and over again, and there's a lot of pointing to Rocksteady co-founder Sefton Hill in this article, who was of course heavily involved with the Batman Arkham games. Like, a lot of people don't want to believe, because of how certain characters are handled in Suicide Squad, that he had anything to do with it, but Sefton Hill was the mastermind behind this story. We know that he left just before the release of the game to start a brand new studio, so he basically left the remaining Rocksteady staff with a mess that he was responsible for. It was noted that he did not spend a lot of time with games like Destiny, so basically did not have the expertise to lead the team into this new venture. And yeah, this caused Warner Bros. To take a big loss of $200 million for their gaming division in the first quarter of 2024, which was mostly because of Suicide Squad. Yeah, that's really huge, but luckily it does seem that this is not the end of Rocksteady, at least for now. Warner Bros. Namely already feels understaffed compared to other gaming publishers, and is now going to do a new tactic where different studios are collaborating on big projects that do make financial sense. Like many of the studio's employees at Rocksteady are now helping to develop a new director's cut version of Hogwarts Legacy. And at the same time, according to people familiar, the studio leaders, so new leaders because Sefton Hill and the other co-founder left, are looking to pitch a new single-player game which would return Rocksteady to its roots. Would be awesome if they get the chance to return to Batman or do a brand new single-player game. That would be awesome too. Although Rocksteady, again, is not the same anymore. Like I mentioned in a previous Sunday video as well, like Sefton Hill is making this brand new studio in London as well and is taking a lot of former colleagues with him. So you can also wonder how many people from the old Batman Rocksteady are actually left to work on this potential new single-player game. And yeah, the Hogwarts Legacy stuff is very interesting. Already discussed it in the big summer update video I did. Totally check that out via the link in the video description. Like them doing some sort of DLC, probably new story content, similar to the director's cuts for Death Stranding and Ghost of Tsushima, would of course be really cool. And again, many people inside Rocksteady are helping, so I have high hopes. And also the community manager is teasing New Game Plus, so seems like they're not done with Hogwarts Legacy after all. But yeah, where does this leave Suicide Squad, the ongoing game? Well, Jason notes on Twitter that it will have some bare bones support. Definitely not as much as they had originally planned. I mean, no surprise, but the game will probably go on live support at the end of the year. Hopefully after they add the offline mode, because I said it many times, I still think it's worth it to run through the campaign at least once when it's like a very low price or on a subscription service. And I guess they still have to release all the 3 extra heroes that they already teased as well. But yeah, looking at Warner Bros. Games' future, they kind of need another win, but there's nothing really big happening in the next at least 2 years. Like the director's cut for Hogwarts Legacy will probably do well depending on what it includes, but it also seems that Wonder Woman is in a troubled state according to a source from Greg Miller, and their other studios like Warner Montreal just launched Gotham Knights and NetherRealms just launched Mortal Kombat. So they will not have something ready for a long time. Interesting for sure. I'm curious to hear your take on the current Suicide Squad, Rocksteady and Warner Bros. Situation. Yes, this coming week will of course be the tail end of the Summer Game Fest with Ubisoft Forward up next. Totally check our live reaction on the channel for another look at Assassin's Creed Shadows. I can't wait. Star Wars Outlaws and hopefully some other cool reveals. Fingers crossed for Splinter Cell. Expect a ton of videos with all the big details and way more. Then on Tuesday, June 11th, we learned that Dragon Age Veilguard will have the gameplay revealed. We will also live react to that and of course cover it with maybe some extra info, so stay tuned to that. So as already said, I'm in LA right now to bring you a ton of stuff, so just subscribe to not miss the Summer Game Fest goodness with of course my thoughts on Xbox and Ubisoft at the end of the week in the Gaming News Roundup Sunday video. A like would be awesome and of course check out other content by clicking on the screen. I will speak to you very soon. Goodbye.